think we're going to kick off. We was expecting a few more, and they may still join, but the attendees numbers have slowed down a bit. There's another one that's just joined, so welcome. First of all, massive welcome, everybody. My name's Glennon Blackmore, and I have had the privilege of being the sponsor for the steering group who's put together the mental health common intent documents together with the awesome team that I will introduce in a little bit of time. But it is welcome to Mental Health Week and welcome to this launch. A really massive welcome to all of you amazing people for coming and joining us. Thank you for joining. Just being here means so much. I think being here shows that you really want to make a difference in this space for you, your people that work for you, and your businesses. And I read a statement that's always gelled with me. I think leadership isn't about being in charge; it's really about caring about those people in your charge. And joining this forum means that you're showing that those leadership characteristics you want to make a difference for you and your businesses. So well done. Really proud to be part of it, and really proud to have you all with us. First of all, I'm going to run through a few ground rules. Then I'll go through the agenda, and then I'm going to hand over to some guest speakers that we've got with us, Mandy and John, that I'll introduce in a second. So first of all, just to let you know, the session is being recorded so that we can share it again later. Hopefully that's acceptable to you, but we need to let you know that we're recording it, and we will make it available to the whole community later on. Cameras on. In fact, we encourage cameras on. Some of the team would prefer to be able to see people's faces when we're talking, so that would be great. But if you're surprised that you can't speak, we have muted everyone's microphones just so that it runs seamlessly. But we would encourage some feedback and chat. Use the chat function. Put any questions in the chat that you want to put in. The team are monitoring them, and we'll get back to those at the end and answer as many of those questions as we can. If we can't answer them all, we'll certainly be capturing them and putting them on our Teams page later. So hopefully that helps set the scene and the ground rules. The agenda is, first of all, this welcome piece and a bit of scene setting, which I'll do in a second. Then we're going to build the picture. John Ryan is going to help us with that. There'll be a short video just to help in making sure that to set the scene. And then John and Mandy are going to have a discussion and try and make it memorable, especially for you to be able to take this forward in future. So I'll bring John and Mandy in a second. Then we'll have circa 15 to 20 minutes about what more can we do. Go through any of your questions, see how we can help there, and we intend to be closed by 11 o'clock. So why? I think you would have seen in the description and why you're here, but mental health affects 1 in 4 people in the UK, and the construction industry is recognised as being one of the more vulnerable groups with increased incidence of suicide. It's attributable to many factors, not least of which a male-dominated sector. But highways operatives also have to often work long hours away from home. And these are just some of the factors that contribute to poor mental health. And therefore the reason why we've put together the common intent document and the toolkit to help you and help your organizations on this journey. So first of all, I'll just introduce you to two of our guest speakers. John Ryan is going to be kicking off first. He's a writer and comedian and broadcaster, has combined his background in construction, comedy and men's health to deliver health messages in a very unique way. So I hope you enjoy that. And Mandy Rutter also joins us as a guest. Mandy is a psychologist, a counsellor and an educator. She started her work with children and families, spent 20 years helping organizations recover from traumatic events, which included things like 9/11 and the 7/7 bombings. Mandy now works in a wide variety of organisations, including Skanska, BP, the RNLI, providing guidance on well-being, trauma management, suicidal awareness, and many other aspects of mental health. So a massive welcome to John and Mandy. Thank you very much. And with that, John, can I hand over to you?
Yep, thanks. If everyone just give a little thumbs up to let me know that you can hear me, that would be good. And also, if you wouldn't mind, just put a little comment in the box just to say I'm here or hello or whatever. Otherwise, given that I can't see anyone, I get the feeling it's like being at a seance, basically. I'm going to spend the next 35 minutes going, is anybody there? Can anybody hear me? So please do let us know that you're there. And also let us know your comments and your thoughts as we go through this. Because one of the great things about this common intent document is that we want to get discussions going. We want to start the chat. And if we're suggesting that a male-dominated sector, which is basically what you're working in, it's full of men who are less likely to seek help or talk, and we're going to demonstrate that a lot of men on here aren't going to talk, it's pointless. So let's get that conversation going, get that dialogue going. I'm sure Glenn will go into more detail about it, but this document is just a framework, basically. It's how organisations can get going. It's not prescriptive, it's not mandatory, it's guidance, okay? But it's to show that there's a lot of working experience and knowledge that can be shared. We've created this toolkit. It's a resource of materials, so do use it. But most importantly, do get the conversation going. We're not alone in this. I'd just like to bit about myself. I do work as a comedian. I've travelled the world. Some of you may have seen me giving talks at conferences, or bumped into me on a night bus or in a Witherspoons on a Tuesday. But we all know people like me. I'm just a bloke. I just see myself as a normal, typical guy. Me and Mrs. got 5 kids. I live in Essex. I'm as guilty as anyone else of keeping my feelings bottled up, even though I work in an environment whereby I go around trying to tell men, open up, talk, seek help, get help. But as with most blokes, what I say and what I do are 2 different things. So even in finding out about this document, it's made me kind of reevaluate what I'm doing. At the end of this hour, Mandy, who's an expert, she's proper. I'm not as knowledgeable as her, but we will have some signposts if you guys want further guidance or advice or help. But the main thing is we want you to enjoy the next hour. So it's like a cake. The more you put in, the more you get out. So please do put your comments in the box and give us thumbs up every now and again, just to let us know that you are there. I think perhaps if we just introduce Mandy, Trish, if you can light her up for us, please. That would be a good starting point. And then after that, we'll move on. We're going to watch a fantastic video and then discuss it. I feel like Ian Sterling on Soccer Saturday. Hello, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Mandy!
Hi. Sorry. Just to pick up on what you've said there, like this is great. This is I know quite a lot of the people who are on the chat. So I just want to say a massive hello. It just feels like we're among friends, to be honest. So a really big hello. And this is my first time that I'm with you with a comedian, actually, John. So normally I have to just both be sort of like both be knowledgeable, informative, and keep the audience going with like funny quirks. So actually, I'm like really grateful today because you can do at least 3/4 of the work, and I'll just do a little bit of chipping in from time to time. So that's really good. And also, I just want to say everything that you've just said there about men. Sometimes as women, I'm going to do a massive shout out for women and men here actually today, because we both have a role in helping each other with this. I can only speak for myself. I talk about this stuff a lot, but I talk about the value of sleep, the value of healthy eating. And I can tell you, I've probably had about 5 hours, 1 minute of sleep today. And in relation to healthy eating, I've probably I actually had half a piece of toast before we started at 7 o'clock. So sort of like it's hard work. I just want to say it's such hard work to keep this momentum going. And if this document provides some simplicity around that, then a big shout out for that. So that's me.
Yeah, that's not happening, right?
Oh.
I'm not doing. I'm not gonna do most of it. What we need to just bear in mind before we watch the video, though, is that obviously we've all been through lockdown. We've all found out stuff about ourselves. We've all taken benefits from lockdown as well. I've got two elderly neighbours who I can't tell you how much I appreciate them now, because I've been able to use their recycling bins for all my wine bottles and make them look like they've got the problem. But one of the serious messages that's going to come out of this whole COVID thing is that just as the NHS has been swamped by people who have suffered physically from the effects of it, there are estimates that as many as up to 10 million people may need additional mental health support as a direct result of the pandemic. So we're living in a changing world, living in a changing environment. Some things won't change, and that's part of what this common intent document seeks to address. We need to get the conversation going and show that we are all in this together. So if I could ask Trish, please, if you could play this video, and we'll talk about it afterwards. Thank you. I'm sure that we'll all agree that's amazing. That's an incredible video. Just as an aside, I've worked a lot in production in television, and that's one of the best videos I think I've ever seen, in terms of quality, storyline, everything. Very simply laid out, very flat. Should point out, if anyone is upset or triggered in any way by what they've seen there, then do message us privately, and we'll sort out some signposting for you to go and to discuss it further. It's also important to point out that not everyone who's having a bad day is going to end up trying to take their own life. So we can get a bit of perspective on it. We talk about mental health a lot, and there's no magic about it. Mental health is just how we think, how we feel, how we behave. It's not necessarily, I've got mental health, it's like I've got an arm. It's not always a bad thing. And mental health, very much like the weather. I've had no lived experience myself of any mental health issues yet, but I don't know what the future's got in store for me. And that's something I think this video shows. It's the little triggers, the little things that can add up. Again, really important to stress this. Not everyone that's having a bad time is going to end up wanting to take their own life. But everybody who is having a bad time could do with someone just reaching out to them, which is part of what we're hoping to do today. So again, please put your comments in the box about what you thought of the video, any feelings that you or thoughts you want to share. Just put them in there, because someone's made this video and it'd be good for them to at least see that people have seen it, acknowledged it, and recognized what it's trying to achieve. So at the beginning, it says that 38% of us have mental health issues. I mean, sometimes I think it can feel like it's much more than that, much more than that. Basically, all of us have mental health issues, but it's how we deal with it. And we'll have good days and bad days, well, bad year, bad month. But there's a big difference between what we're feeling and obviously Joe's story. Mandy, what would you say were the kind of significant parts of that video? What hit you?
Yeah, so so first of all, from a video perspective, actually it really feels like it goes into your heart a bit, with the combination just of the story, the simplicity of the story, the music, and the paying attention to every sort of moment that we see in Joe, if we call him Joe, let's call him Joe, in Joe's life just at that time. There's incredible, what I pulled out for me was the minutiae of those little things that happen to us on a day-to-day basis, which then all add up. So for me, whilst being mindful of the end, which was pretty powerful, if you just take this through from the beginning, what I was really struck by is the beginning, look at the little things where he smiled. So what were the great things for him? So his partner getting up with him at 6 o'clock in the morning and sharing a cup of tea, his partner just touching the touch, which we've lost so much of during this time, but touching, smiling, having a love, sharing a cup of tea. The other thing that I was struck by was that when he was at work, having pride in his work as well, like holding up and like keeping people safe. But the passenger who smiled and he was able to acknowledge like the good, like the directions or whatever cross. So the real positive, the real minutiae of the positives. And often we don't pay attention to this enough. And from a science point of view, each of those tiny little positives that we have produce endorphins, produce serotonin, and they act as the antidote to some of the stress bits and pieces that we saw. So just on that, just think for everyone this morning, actually, who's listening, just to get in touch with the real positives. And often it's the simple things that really, the simple and meaningful things that make us really feel good. And we don't take account of that. One of the things about this pandemic we've seen is that people aren't paying attention to the things that they are grateful for, to the things that they're celebrating that's positive about themselves, to the things that they've achieved, that a lot of us have been slogging it through. And actually what we need to be thoughtful about is just paying attention to the positives, which is so important for us. But of course, then, John, come on.
My first thought was, well, they clearly ain't got kids, because 5 o'clock in the morning, the two of them way too cheerful. There's just too much joy going on in that kitchen. If I wake her up at 5 in the morning, that coffee's going over me. But he's got a supportive partner. Not everyone's got supportive partners, and sometimes I get the feeling that we're told, reach out to your friends, share with your partner. What if you're living on your own? You know, these are the realities of it. And when people come to work, you know, the first thing you spot, he's wearing all his PPE, and his biggest PPE is his big smile. Big smile. It's very welcoming and very opening. That's is that evening they're laughing and joking on the couch. Things are good, but things turn so quickly, and I don't know if people always realise that a lot of the time when people hurt themselves, it's a switch. It's that quick, and if these little things build up, if he did say to his partner, oh, "I'm having a really tough time, I'm having a bad time," her thing surely would be, "Well, you was fine this morning at 5 o'clock when we were drinking tea, and I got up to have tea with you." So where do we how do we open up? How do we get that dialogue going?
And can just coming in on that, just on that just to focus a little bit on the money side of it. And I know that Dan has put a comment in the chat about that, so he gets that letter, which is about debt, and just be thoughtful around debt and finances. That, I mean, I'm doing this with my arms because there's what we call a bi-directional link between debt and mental health. So if you're in debt, then you are more likely, clearly, to have some of the common mental health disorders, whether it's anxiety or depression. And actually, then if you have anxiety and depression, you're more likely to have financial difficulties, struggle with your finances. So actually, there is that finance and mental health issue for all of us who are interested in mental health and helping people. Finances is a big one, because what you saw at that moment when he opened that letter is, well, what I felt anyway, was that he felt shame. He felt that he couldn't go to her immediately and say, he couldn't go to his partner and say, "Oh my God, look what's happened to this. How am I going to manage this?" There was a sense of shame. And I think, John, you talked before about men and reaching out. And the thing about shame, asking for help, needing to be, I should be better than this. I should have sorted this. This should be what we do. This is what I should be doing. So I saw that shame. And once we start talking about shame, we then start beginning to people to go inside of themselves, because they feel shameful about what's happening to them. And we saw that, didn't we? We saw that with the machine. He pressed it, and then, like more things going wrong, hitting on the head with the coffee. It's like, well, that feels like you're just no one, just like adding to the feelings of shame. And what I did love, and I'll pass on back to you in a second, I love the metaphors. So you've got the metaphors of road closure and diversion, and you've got that as a traffic management, but that's psychological as well. So you've got road closure. So the road to asking for help is closed. The road for reaching out is closed. And also that diversion, like what diversion are we going to take? And I did you sort of pick that up, that sort of road closure sort of thing, John?
Maddie, you're clearly a film critic, mate. You've now done Mark Ormsroyd's, and the acting was great, the lighting. No, I didn't pick up on that at all. I just thought the bloke threw a coffee at him. I thought he should have jumped out and smacked him, because that's a typical male reaction. Okay, but obviously he can't do that, because then it's wrong to use physical violence. You lose your job and blah blah blah, all the implications of it. But to be subjected to that level of abuse and not react to it, that takes some doing. I was struck as the letter. It was from Top Landlord. I'm a kind of top landlord. He's a bit late with his rent. Bang, straight on it. But that's the reality. Some people, they're under that financial pressure. It may be the first time he's been under it. It may be an ongoing thing with him. But for those of us who do manage our money, well, where is our sympathy? You're working, you're getting paid. You should surely be able to pay your rent. There's two of you living there. What's the problem? And that's the reality that guy's probably facing. Why? So it's all well and good saying about, oh, he feels shame, or he feels whatever. But the reality, sometimes you can't say to someone, yeah, like, I've run up these debts, because other people don't. And then how does the person suffering expect empathy or relatability from other people? If anyone's got any ideas on this, please put it in the chat box. Let us know. Give us a talking point. But that's very much the case. I know that when my son first moved out and got his own place, I said, how are you getting on? He said, it's really difficult. I said, yeah, it is difficult. Where did you get the idea it's easy from? Now, that's not me being unsympathetic. That's almost a kind of an acceptance that the reality is that bills have to be paid and managed. And that's a whole separate issue. But how do we address that without making this situation worse?
Yeah, I really like that sort of idea of thinking about education and sort of financial education. And I know when I was at school, I really did really. I don't think I learned anything at school that I'm actually using now. And actually, when we think about what were the things that we could have learned at school, and I know that my children are also learning, that they're learning stuff actually like this. They have positive mindset classroom, and they're learning about mental health. And my little 4-year-old grandson here, he does like mindfulness. So we actually have a generation that is coming up actually expecting to be able to have workplaces that do talk about this. But we have this generation of people who, we know, if we just come to the sort of suicide for a second there, that that we have a generation of people. And anyone on the chat, let me know what you think about this. But those who are most at risk, interestingly, are the highest figures are men aged 40 to 45. And it's that age group where actually maybe you've been brought up with the stigma of not talking, but actually we're in a new environment now where there is an expectation to learn about mental health and talk about this. So actually, one of the things that we need to be thoughtful about is actually, many of us who are that age group of people who are 40 to 45 are often in management and leadership positions, interestingly. And we've got some lovely comments about leaders and managers talking about this and showing a role modeling and giving a narrative that says, oh, they've been through that too. Oh, and they've managed it. And this is how they've helped themselves. So, stories about how we've got over difficult experiences can be incredibly helpful. And, I suppose going back to Joe in our video, John, I sometimes think, well, what sort of environment could we have had in our business that could mean that when he got his letter, he could have picked up the phone to some of our financial management links or the employee assistance program, and he would have known straight away where he could have got help. How far away are we in our workplaces from having this environment where all the people that know that with one click of the phone, they can get help for how they feel and what's going on for them?
Again, I do. I support you completely with that. I agree with that, and I can't see the comments in the chat box, so I don't know if anyone else is making any points on this. If you want to bring it up, please do. But it just seems to me that just because I can cope doesn't mean everyone can. So just because I manage my money, I don't expect necessarily that my friends and relatives can. Okay, but I think sometimes there does become an issue whereby, well, look, I'm just trying to sort myself out here. Have I got time in the workplace to look out for my mates, for my colleagues? And that responsibility, it's about getting people to understand, I think, that it's not so much a duty, it's a bit of compassion, because it could be me next. Like I said, I have no lived experience of any mental health problems, but who knows what's going to happen to me tomorrow, next week, next month. And I think sometimes we concentrate on the big tragic events when really it's these little things. When you went to get the coffee and the coffee machine wasn't working, I would have gone and picked something else. But I'm in a different position. And I think sometimes it's very hard, especially for blokes, to kind of go, well, look, like I say, I'm battling with this. I'm getting on with life. Do I have time to help you?
Yeah. I can I just ask that? Can I just pick up that thing about asking for help? Because there's been a couple of comments on the chat here about how do we, how come some people are resilient through this and in a way ask for help easily, and other people struggle and don't ask for help, and what's the difference in that? And can I just say that just answering the question about, I guess, the science behind this a bit, is that if we take Joe, for example, and again, I'm going to do a little bit of psychoanalysis, which I know is not like you should do on a 5-minute video, but let me just say. So one of the things is what I notice is obviously one of the things about resilience and our mental health is about our influences from the past. And we've got influences from the past, that's number one, and we've got current situation. It is not it is not all influences the past, and it's not all current situation. It's a combination of both. Now, in an ideal world, what we do when people start working with us is that we know the 2 or 3 things which are really important to help us build resilience. Number one, confidence in ourselves. So feeling that we matter, feeling that what we do is valuable, and our ability to notice when we're struggling, and our ability to ask for help when we need it. In relation to trauma, when I used to work with people who are traumatized, the biggest influence on how well they recover is the quality of their support network. This is so important, John, the quality of their support network. So if we think about our guy Joe here, let's have a look at the quality of his support network. I think his partner was like, I know we could, criticize or whatever, but she was there. She got up with him. She was great. But she sort of turned away when she was cross. So she's one support network. We saw his mum as well. Now, if you read those texts, what his mum said at first, I mean, she may have said, "Hi, how are you? Great to see you. Would you like to come over for tea on Friday?" She might have said that, but she didn't at first. She said, "Your dad's ill." And so what that that was another burden on him. And I think there's a comment about the minutiae again of discussion. So if I'm working with John and I'm about to give you a huge big project of responsibility, rather than me just say do this, if I can just say, can I just check in? How are you? What have you got on your plate? Is that I've got something here that I think you might be good at and might be interested in? Is that something that we could work together on?
But hang on, isn't that then? Where's the resilience? At the end of the day, job's got to get done, isn't it? Job's got to get done.
Yeah.
So you can go, look, guys, do you mind putting these cones out? Hope it's not too much trouble. If you got a few hours, like while we're paying you to do it, or do you go, look, cones out now? What?
There is in every intervention, just putting cones out, perfect example. Yeah, the job's got to be done, but you're 2 human beings. What you're doing, it's just put the cones out. You're ignoring the fact that, maybe you're my manager. So you have an opportunity there to say, Mandy, really important job to do for you to keep on with this. Here's the cones. You put them out in the safest way possible. You can give me responsibility. You can give me value. You can give me support. And actually that doesn't take any, it might take 30 seconds longer than you just saying, Mandy, cones out. But actually look at the value of those 30 seconds. And the value could mean the difference between the feeling, for me, feeling valued, that I'm important, that I'm cared for, that I can ask for help from you, or me feeling actually I'm just an object that actually just needs to put cones out. This is what we're trying to, and I know that that's an individual thing, but inherent in our document, if you like, and our toolkit is the fact that people's personalities, people's soul, people's spirit, and people's value is an inherent part of everyday conversation.
But in a workplace, are we coming to work, or are we coming for counselling to bring all our burdens and all the problems of our lives with us? Where's the line? Where's the line? Job's got to get done. We want people to be safe. How do we get colleagues, employers, and each other to realise that just as important it is that you don't get run over while you put the cones out, it's also equally and more important that you don't get damaged up here.
But John, I'm going to come to that in a minute, but you told me a story, John, in our past history.
Of a couple of secret. You tell them a secret, man.
Yeah, you told me a story. And can you remember the story you told me? I think, was it in Japan, of the traffic controller in his suit? Tell that story, stuck with me. Go for that.
So basically, I went to Japan to do some comedy, and the road outside the hotel was being done up, and there was a guy in a suit in charge of the stop and go sign, and I was fascinated with him, and I said to the kind of liaison person that was with us, why is he wearing a suit if he's just doing stop and go? And the guy looked at me like there was something wrong with me. He said, well, it's a really important job. Why wouldn't he? And it made me think about how here we don't value these guys that we're talking about are they're engineers, they're traffic control managers. They're doing a very professional job. The guy in Japan in his suit, he takes pride in his little stop go sign. But here, when I've seen it, it's almost like it's the bum job someone's got to do. And it's all about that, then that pride in yourself, pride in work. And again, then I suppose once that comes, it gives you that confidence to talk reasonably to your colleagues, to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And can I just sort of throw just one thing really, which is like focusing on the end of this. And I think there's a comment from Andrew there in the chat, which is not necessarily so Andrew's talking, sort of saying it's not necessarily about those individual discussions. It's about, you know, how you can help people hide things. Just be careful. I would just be careful about thinking that there's one answer to this, that actually, you know, how we help our communities and our workforce with mental health is a whole variety. We have diversity of thinking, we have diversity of ideas, we have diversity of illnesses, and we therefore have to have a diverse approach, so that we need to have a continuum of approaches, so that conversations on a day-to-day basis, all the way up then to an EAPs that people can use. We need to sort of have, you know, our professionals, our mental health first aiders, our well-being champions. So a whole load of things, but also then, and, you know, I've been working with Tricia a lot on, you know, on suicide awareness. Let's just bring this in for a second, that one of the most important things is to bring that talk around suicide much more into the everyday conversation. And John, this is not about counselling. It's not about psychiatric intervention. It's not about psychologists coming in and saying like, oh, you know, this is how it should be done. It's about saying, you know, sometimes people get so bad, feel so difficult, so uneasy, that all of the options that the rest of us think are viable get closed down. And that's the metaphor for roads closed and diversion. It's like that's the options closing down. And if all the time in our mental health education, we can talk about options. So if the EAP doesn't work, employee assistance program isn't the right thing for one person, then maybe it's joining in with, you know, couch to 5K run. Or if our line manager, if we can't talk to our line manager, then maybe we have wellbeing champions or mental health first aiders. So let's all the time think about options for support, so that when we feel a little bit, you know, we feel shameful, we feel hidden, all around us is information about options.
Okay, so before we just hand back to Glennon, just to remind people, please do keep putting your comments in the chat box and hang about at the end for a little Q&A if you need any more advice or any signposting. It's really important to recognise that mental health, those words, mental health, starts with the letters M and E. Mental health starts with me. And if we all remember, you know, we're all in this together. We all experience things in different ways. Mental health is like the weather. There's good days, there's bad days. And I think this document and these kind of discussions can only help getting people to realise, let's normalise the conversation so that people don't suffer on their own. So that if some lad gets a bill, he can learn to sort of go, you know, it's not the end of the world. But also, it's for us to learn that that could be me next. So thanks, Mandy. We're going to hang about till the end for anyone who's got any questions or wants to continue the conversation. Glennon, if I pass back to you.
Thank you very much. Absolutely awe-inspiring. Thank you for your time, both John and Mandy. I hope that has at least created an awareness and a memory point for all of you. I think that's the important piece. A hard-hitting video. The comments continue to come in on the chat, and really appreciate that. But the really important bit is to create a memory point. Please don't forget today. Please don't forget this conversation. Use it as a memory point that you can keep coming back to. Because the really important piece is what we do with it, what we do as leaders, what we do as organizations. And I just wanted to remind everybody that there is no right or wrong place for all of us, either as individuals or as organizations, to be on this journey. We just are where we are. The journey is what we do from today that really counts. And so we've created this common intent document and the associated toolbox of links just to help people move and take their businesses on this journey. It's about you as leaders, you as individuals, you as people, then doing something for your organizations to help make a difference, to help create the environment that we don't have more Joes, to help create the environment where people start to care. People in the chat, there were some fantastic comments about actually the people that threw the coffee or the people that threw the signs might have been having some stress situations of their own. Who knows where that story was going? So creating empathy and care is really important. So yeah, today is about that memory point. The common intent documents are on the Safety Hub website. Please go and have a look. You can see the link there on the slide. They're really easy to get to. If you go onto the website, there's a little window called SCSLG. Just hover your mouse over that. That'll highlight a sub window, and hover over the sub window, and just to the right it says mental health. Click on that mental health page and you're straight in there. The common intent documents and the toolbox is there. Just very briefly, hopefully we've made it simple to use. There's just 5 steps to the common intent, and the very first step is establishing your commitment. Some of you are in organizations that have established that commitments. What about having a refresh, have a recheck? Is your commitment still valid, and what you're going to do with respect to mental health? The second step is then creating a benchmark, measure yourselves, develop your own organization's knowledge is the third point, providing ongoing support to your teams is the fourth, and then reviewing everything that you're doing and evolve. And that's where I said revolve, review, and recheck your commitment. The toolbox is set up in those 5 steps. So there's free resources, links to those free resources to help you in each one of those endeavors, each one of those steps along the common intent. So yeah, just before I get on to Q&A, to close on that piece, I wanted to say, use your story, the stories that you've had, use this story to make a difference. It is Mental Health Awareness Week. Thank you to everybody that's joined us. But we are going to get into Q&A. So if you do have any questions, please put them into the chat. I know there were a few. Mandy, I saw you picked up the one on the science of behavior. I'm not sure that I was capturing them all. So if any of the other team can help, that would be great. But just before we go into the Q&A, the real work that's been done in here is the awesome team that's been working with me. I'm purely the sponsor, and I sit on the SL, the Supply Chain Safety Leadership Group. But the team that have been involved with building this common intent and collating the toolbox are Trisha O'Neill. All of their names will be on, and they are on a later side. So Trisha O'Neill from Skanska, Tony Yeomans and Emma Hughes from Jacobs, Nick Holt from WJ, Rebecca Eaton from Highways England, and Ian Nixon from Costains. And then we've been helped today with John Ryan and Mandy Rutter trying to create this memorable event. And hopefully that has happened. So an equally massive shout out to Mandy and John for all the help that you've given to us. So thank you, team. Thank you for all the work. We do also have a Teams page. A Teams page has been set up. It's also on the slides. We'll make the slides available. So any future questions that you might have that we can try and address, they can come through onto the team page. So a massive thank you to everyone. Keep the memory. Do something about it, please. And I'll open up to Q&A. Have any questions come out whilst I was jabbering away?
I've got one, Glennon, just to start us off here, just from the chat. There's a couple of things just about stigma, I think. So Jane has asked about CEOs talking. Someone else has asked about, challenging the stigma around mental health. Can I just offer something around this? Because I did a little bit of work on how we challenge stigma it's not just one thing. There's three things which we need to challenge stigma, and one of them is education. So things like just reading the document. So I read that document last week. I read it again. Just challenging. So education is so important for challenging stigma. That's the first thing. The second thing is narrative. So people's stories. So Jane is saying things like CEOs telling their story. Yes, telling stories, narrative, but don't forget include in your narrative, if you're going to tell your story of like really difficult experiences or talk story about what's happened to you, please make sure you tell the story and make sure you bring the story up to date. A little bit like I think Andrew is talking about here. It's like bring it up to date so that actually you can say how your thinking has changed since that situation. So we've got education, we've got narrative, and then media. Actually, what are we receiving from the media? What are we receiving from our sort of unconscious communication, whether that's on the telly, on the radio, on social media? And when I did the work I did, which was a couple of years ago on stigma, we were, interestingly, positive comments about mental health and negative comments about mental health were 50-50 in the press. It may be a little bit more positive now, but we've still got quite a lot of work to do around that. So it's a variety. It's three things: education, narrative, and media. If we really want to challenge stigma.
Can I just ask? Just remind people. Just please put your questions and thoughts into the chat box, so we got things to work off. I think it's really important that we think about the language that we use as well. How often has someone said to you, "How are you?" And you'll just go, "I'm all right." Or you ask someone else, how are you getting on? "I'm okay." You're okay. Your wife left you, your house burned down, your car got stolen, and you're okay. Yeah, okay. It's that I was brought up in an Irish family, and there's an unwritten rule that you can turn something down, but you've got to be asked 3 times. "Do you want a cup of tea?" "No, thank you." "Do you want a cup of tea?" "No, thank you." "Do you want a cup of tea?" "Okay." But it's that rule of 3. Are you okay? You sure you're okay? You're really okay? And sometimes I think, again, I'm sorry to kind of generalize and if it sounds sexist, but men especially, we don't really always want to know if what our mate's going through. So you're all right? Yeah, Riley says he's all right. That's it. End of. You had your chance. Done. Let's move on with the conversation. It's just about getting us. I think men will talk if we're in a safe space and we feel comfortable. But it's just about remembering when you're asking someone if they're okay, try and sound interested. And maybe be a bit concerned, because the person that you're asking has to feel safe and comfortable. And by the same token, I think it's all about leading by example. And it's, for me, you ask me if I'm okay, I'll tell you, and then maybe from that you'll go, "Oh, it's all right, to be honest. It don't hurt."
Just to pick up on that, also, I mean, and quite a lot of comments in the chat are about this, that we do, so on our video even, it's talk more, so TM, talk more. And I think if you're going to, please use this video. It's so powerful. But the follow-on question for that is, so if we are talking, how good are we within our organizations at listening? Where do we get taught? Where do we get our listening? How do we get our listening skills taught through to us? And therefore, I would make a plea for anyone on this session that every training course you have, and this is not about counselling and it's not about psychiatry, but every training course you have, just have quarter of an hour session on listening skills. Whether it's actually, how to putting bollards out, how to wear your PPE, your driving course that you have to go on. If we could build in 15 minutes of listening skills into every course that we run, then we will be increasing that culture of listening within our organizations.
Is it Mark Twain who said, "You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You should always listen twice as much as you speak"?
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said for that. But isn't there also this myth of the strong, silent type?
Yep.
How do we break this down? How do we kind of undo it and unpick it? And how do we, as employers and colleagues, see almost like a duty of care, not just for that physical side of it? Like I say, we've kind of PPE'd out a lot of risks, but what are we doing for the brain? That's the next surely challenge.
Well, and just to sort of just jump in on that, because Carly had said something about not problem solving. So just to be mindful that, and Glennon, having worked with you for quite a long time now, you're paid to solve problems. You're paid to sort of engineer problem solving, and that's what you're good at. That's your familiar place. And actually, with mental health and listening, what we have to do is to just slightly take that step back and say that when you listen to people, the fact that they are talking is really helping them. And actually, and when they hear their own words and they hear what's happening to them, they can often take a step back and say, oh gosh, yeah, no wonder I'm feeling this. No wonder this has happened. So actually, please, problem solving is important for engineering and is important for so many of the work, the ideas that we have. But when we're talking, people are telling you about their situation. Problem solving is actually not part of a mental health conversation. Problem solving is something that you give because you think you have got an answer to their problems. But actually, the vast majority of people with enough care and thought and consideration have got answers to their own problems, but they just need to give the opportunity and the care to be able to reach that.
Yeah, absolutely thought-provoking, Mandy, and link straight in with what John said, 2 years and one mouth. And how often, I quite often find myself testing, am I listening or am I getting ready to respond? And if I'm getting ready to respond, I have to tell myself off and say, hold on, you've missed the key message. Somebody is busy talking. You've missed what they're actually saying. Pointless deciding on your response. Finish listening. And it's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if is it a human trait? You must probably know better than me that we're getting ready to respond, and we actually need to pause and listen. Is that natural? Perhaps it's just me, and I need to work harder at it.
No, it's just like, do you remember the playground game with the skipping rope? And you'd wait and then you'd jump in and you'd skip out. Some people are like that with conversation, aren't they? They'll go, how are you? But they don't want to know how you are. They want to tell you how they are. How are you? Oh, well, I've just been on holiday. I was on holiday.
And be careful that you're not on two parallel lines of communication. So it's exactly, John, what you said, like, oh, have you been on holiday? Like, yeah, I've been to Greece. Like, oh, I've been to Greece and this is what happened. No, this is what happened to me. So are you on two parallel, it looks like you're communicating, but you're on two parallel lines? Or actually, are you able to weave through and really have a conversation that actually sparks off what the other person has said, rather than waiting for a moment to jump in?
Everyone's scared to speak now in case we're going to jump in.
But like, we've got some great comments. So Holly, active listening takes work. Carly, essential skill. So maybe listening is something that we really need to bring up to the priority.
Excellent, absolutely excellent. Thank you. If we've missed a particular question because the chat has been quite lively, apologies. If you think that you want something, we do have a couple of minutes, so just quickly put it back in if there's one that we've missed. We will go back through it and have a look at it. But to the team, thank you. It's been an absolute inspiration working with all of you. From the day when we first were set the challenge about coming up with a mental health common intent document, the way we went about it, the way you engaged, the way that we've worked in coming up with what we've produced, the toolkit that sits out there. Thank you. You're absolutely awesome. We are going to continue to be available. The Teams page exists. It is on one of the slides. I think the easiest way is to put the slides on. Yeah, so it's on the Q&A slide. And to be added to that forum, please just email us at homesafeandwell@highwaysengland.co.uk. So that's home safe and well, all one word, at highwaysengland.co.uk. Reference the mental health forum and ask to be added to the team site. But of course, the easiest way to get hold of the documents is through the Highways, what do we call it? Highway Safety Hub. So thank you very much. Just before I close, let's just have a quick look. Are there any new questions.
Can I just ask everyone to share that video? Just get it out there. Just share it. I think it's brilliant. Really, really good. And it'll get discussion going. It'll get people talking. It deserves a wider audience, I think.
Yes, absolutely, John. I think, and there's some people from HTM on the call who have already confirmed it's available and it's been shared in the chat. So to HTM and your incredible team, thank you very much for allowing us to have it and use it and share it more widely. Hannah Shines, who do we ask to get on Teams? I contacted the email address and they weren't sure how. Okay. Good question. Rebecca, do you know the answer to that, or will we need to come back to the group? It should have come back through to us or through to Rebecca.
Yeah, sorry you got that response, but yes, you should just be able to email the Home Safe and Well, and then forum. But I will pick up on your particular one there and make sure that you are added.
Okay, yeah, we'll check that out, Hannah, and just make sure that the Home Safe and Well email address is recognizing that it should come through to us. Thank you for letting us know that. Excellent, great day. Have an amazing day. Make a difference, not just in Mental Health Week, but in everything that you do moving forward. Thank you very much for joining us, and all the best, everyone.
Well done, team.
Well done. Yeah, absolutely. If everyone is happy to stay on for a few minutes after everyone's gone, we'll just wait for people to finish commenting and leave.
Would you like to stop recording?
Yeah, I've stopped,
Okay.
John. Thank you for the reminder.
I'm just going to be 2 minutes.